What's up, y'all? KRCPinto here for the final episode of my series with Axeice. Today, we're going to talk about something that is absolutely crucial to your gameplay if you want to get better at Dragon Ball FighterZ, and that is keeping your turn. So, Axeice, what a lot of people think of when they're thinking about keeping their turn is the frame data and how that works, but something you've been talking to me about lately is how resource management can have an impact on the way you keep your turn. You're a big proponent of like air options and jumping out of things. We talked about in an earlier episode about how you can get your second jump back if someone air dashes you in the air. So how do you feel about jumps as a resource?
Jumping is a really good resource if you want to not stay on the ground, especially if they have full screen beams, which most characters could do, especially because there's new assists. And it's good to understand that this is mechanic in this game called floating, or super float in this game, because you have to super jump to get the float mechanic is. It helps you not be on the ground, so it helps you stay in the air longer, and it helps you understand how your opponents try to come in and try to use their defensive tool to try to take their turn back. And for example, floating, so you guys don't be confused, is this: you are able to jump straight up and move back or even forward. If you double jump, you are unable to move forward or back. And now to give you a better example through controller, so you see how I'm double jumping and I'm unable to move forward or back. But if I double jump with the super jump, I'm able to move forward and backwards. And because of that, you're not as predictable, and you are able to move back as a defensive tool, or even move closer to hit your opponent to get in closer.
Are you able to float without using your second jump?
You are able to float without using your second jump, but you have to super jump the first time to get the float. Because if you normal jump any kind of way, you won't have it, and you are stuck in that position. But if you super jump, you are able to float and do a lot of things too.
So in terms of resource management, being able to incorporate super jump float into your game is a good way to help you use that second jump more efficiently, correct?
Second jump will be able to be there more consistently, and you are able to fall to the ground faster, like this. You could stay in the air longer or just keep it natural. But because you could stay in the air longer, you could keep your second jump, you're able to float, move around, and instant air dash just like that. And then you could catch his people and catch them surprise. So you see how moving back slowly, moving forward, and then you could just instant air dash before you land and then hit them, or even start your turn. So this is really good to keep pressure or keep your opponents on their toes.
Yeah, I feel like that tool is really strong, and that's something you see when you watch tournaments and you watch pro matches, is that they're always super jump floating. That's something that they incorporate very often, you included. That's a very common thing at high level, right?
Yeah, and one thing about that is now, because they are mindful of your super jump, they might try to predict your floating or landing with an assist calling, and they missed. And because of that, you still in the air, and they might super dash too early, and you're able to have defensive play from there. And now, because they call it an assist, you could be mindful of when the assist regenerates, what type of the assist they have. If they have a C assist and they thought they was going to hit you, you have more time to get in, because C assist takes a longer time to regenerate.
I like that you brought that up, because that's another resource that I think people, they consider as a resource, but they might mismanage a little bit. So like, in terms of using your own assists, people tend to panic call them, or call them in weird points in neutral. What do you think is a common mistake people make when using their assists?
For example, I do it too. I sometimes call out 17 thinking they're gonna pressure me, but they stay back and try to neutral with me, so I just waste an assist call. And now I have one assist that I can't use for defensive play, and if I do hit them, I'm unable to hit them and call my assist. So now I have one assist less for this combo, and I'm unable to keep the pressure because of it. But at the same time, you don't want to use both assists in a combo, because now if for some odd reason you need to keep your turn or you hit them again, the second time you hit them you won't have an assist, and that's not very good because you lose a lot of damage and meter because of that.
And that is a change in Season 3, that your assist won't regenerate until you completely finish offense, correct?
I believe you have to be on the ground for 18 frames before, and no blocks and no hit stun. No hit stun until those 18 frames are done, and then the regenerate comes up. If you use both assists and give your opponents a slide and knockdown, and you overhead them before they recover, you don't get your assist back.
Ooh.
But if you stay on the ground and you hit them in a certain way where you could trick the game that you've been on the ground long enough and not pressure on your opponent, you could get your assist back and find cool setups and long enough combos where you could get your assist back if you do hit them. Or if you keep them in long enough block strings, you could use those assists for mix-ups and keep your turn.
How long does it take for your assist to start regenerating after you finish a string?
I believe it's 18 frames, but I'm not too keen on that. It might be shorter, it might be longer. I'm not very too technical with that. I just know certain setups could let you get your regenerate your assist back. So keep a lookout on that.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about C assists now, because those become at a certain level a really precious resource, because as everyone knows, C assists recover much slower than A or B assists.
It's my turn.
Yes, and because of that, you could take a huge advantage of your opponent, because you could have your assists come back way before their assists, and that means you could super dash and assist call. You could do more damage in a combo and use it to do more mix-ups and more block strings and take your turn back more consistently.
And what's the difference in the regeneration? I think it's an A or a B will recover almost twice before a C does, correct?
Yes, so basically you could, by the time you call out your second assist, by the time your assist comes back, the assist will also just come back by the third time. And to give you a quick example, there you go. So if he calls out Fidel and they both come back, you could see the huge difference from a C assist and a normal assist. I could call this assist out, and by the time she finished, I will have my assist. So I have one whole assist plus another assist with your assist as an advantage. So when you get your assist back, I could basically call mine twice as soon as you could call yours the second time.
So calling your assists mindfully when you're running a C assist is almost twice as important than when you're running an A or B, yeah?
Yes, the huge advantage C assist has is that it tracks you anywhere. So if I have my 17 as C assist, which is decent, but I prefer as A assist because it has more tools, it's very hard to combo full screen with this key bass. But if I call on my assist while I hit him, it tracks and it could combo very, very nicely. So, and then I could combo full screen because of that. So C assist does have its advantages, but it has huge disadvantages. It scales the combo a lot. It comes back very slowly. And some of them doesn't even have good blocks done. So you are missing out on blocks done and taking your turn back just to have a longer recovery. So keep that in mind. One good thing about your resource and management too is understanding what tools do you have. And I know this has come up for a lot of you guys where you guys have clash. And if you guys clash, which I show you, you could do a lot of things from it. So when your opponents block a guard 6M forward medium, you are 0. So when you both press the fastest button in the game, which is light, which is 6 frames, you guys will always clash. But there's times where you guys clash without when this happening. The game lets you do a lot of things. Like for example, deflect. You could reflect, you could press any other buttons, but you want to press buttons that's really fast. And some characters could, instead of auto comboing, you could hold back and press light, and you could get double light instead of an auto combo. It's very good to do this because instead of auto comboing, which is much longer to recover and stuff, doing double 4L in some situations to check your opponent lets you see, one, it beat a lot of clashes if they don't hold back and double light, and two, if they don't land and they try to super dash, you could have enough time to 2H and punish them in different ways instead of mashing auto combo and then get punished from super dash or supers or from some shenanigan assist. For
using 4L back and light, so it gives you your basic 5L twice instead of going into the auto combo. Is that's strong in a clash situation? Would you say that's strong in a stagger situation as well?
Yes, a lot of competitive players do that in staggers, because now staggers could lead into dragon rushes, DRs. So you could bait them into a DR, or you could bait them into a 5M, which will hurt if you stagger it properly. So now they have to worry about a DR or a 5M, which some characters can't take advantage because a lot of characters don't have double 4Ls. Like for example, Jiren. So no matter how hard I mash, I can't get 2 of them out. So I can't manipulate my jabs and staggers that easily. Jiren does have a really good stagger game, but some characters just doesn't have the double 4L, which could come in handy.
There's one more resource I really wanted to touch on here, and that is Sparking Blast. So Sparking Blast opens up your toolkit a little bit. It makes you a little bit faster, a little bit stronger, recovers your blue health, but it also changes the way that vanishing works, which is a big deal. You know, you'll see a lot of times in high-level play, people will use empty vanishes to extend combos and things like that, but in terms of keeping your turn, how can you use empty vanish to your advantage?
Sparking lets you empty vanish, and because of empty vanish, you are able to do more combos. The scaling on combos is not heavily hurt. When you vanish and it hits an opponent and vanish, it scales very much. But if you empty vanish, the scaling is non-existent. So it helps you do longer and bigger damage combos. Sparking does give you more damage. It doesn't give you much. It doesn't give you any speed actually, but it gives you a lot more meter gain. And a good way to show you that is with this combo. So this is a normal Ki Blast combo with 17. How 2 of those gives me 1 full bar, but if I do the same thing in Sparking, it gave me 2 full bars doing the same exact thing, and that makes a big difference. So because you get more meter, and if you have 3 characters, you could go into level 1 to level 3, and you could kill if you didn't have those 5 bars. So keep that in mind, and that works for DRs. You get double the meter. Anything you do, you get double it, and that even counts for reflecting. So if your opponents attack you and you reflect, you will also get double the bar, and that's really good to keep in mind.
So let's talk more about empty vanish as a way to keep your turn. This is something that we've touched on before, you and me, but like say you want to do like a standard, like maybe like a lariat to vanish, or you know, like a beam to vanish. Like, how can you use empty vanish as a resource to make the most of that neutral situation? Right.
So one great thing about empty vanish is if the combo is long enough, you could also still get meter, and you could do unique combos like these. And now I'm getting my meter back, having less scale, and you are able to do more damage and set up a better combo, because the combo is not scaled at all. So empty vanishes and sparking is a really important tool, and that's why you shouldn't use it too early in the game, especially if you're not going to kill. Save a lot of blue health from DPs or level 3. So if your character health is very low and you want to spark to save them, it's not really recommended. And the more characters you have death, the longer the sparking is. And I think I learned this recently, where each death adds additional 6 seconds. So the max sparking time is 24 seconds with your last character. And those 24 seconds could last like forever if the pressure is on point.
So what about in like a situation where you're maybe full screen and they're blocking your key blasts, and like, you know, you would maybe vanish in to keep pressure? How can you use an empty vanish there to your advantage?
Just like a vanish, you could you are plus and your opponent is still in block strings for certain things. So if you do a full screen vanish or a key blast, even though they could reflect because it's a key blast property, they will have to be ready for it and be able to know how to punish it in the first place.
Gotcha. And you can, from empty vanish, you could block yourself if you wanted to, like, stay safe, or maybe like beta reflect, but you're unsure.
Not the first few frames. If you empty vanish, there is a first few frames of teleport in there you are unable to block. But it's very rare cases where there's an active hitbox behind your opponents. So keep that in mind.